Hi, I'm Allie, and 2 years ago, I introduced the Fruits Basket anime to my fiancé.
And I'm John, and as an anime only, I'm so stoked to see which of my theories are right.
And which are questionable.
So join us today as we talk about Season 3, Episode 6, It Was So Foolish. Alright, so where are we starting?
I feel like we have to start with just a little disclaimer. Disclaimer time.
Okay.
I realize as a manga reader that this is different from how it went in the manga. And I know that. But in my brain, I have separated the manga and the anime as two separate entities. And I really like this episode and I'm going to enjoy the anime for what it is. And I'm not going to bring up the manga changes too much because I don't want to ruin the manga reading experience for the anime onlys if they choose to do so and they see what changes come up. So we can talk about it under spoiler tags, and I do want to note that if you read the manga, it's gonna feel different. Just the emotional impact hits differently to the point where these are like almost two separate entities emotionally now.
Yeah.
Because you go in with a different mindset. So I just want to do like a little disclaimer about that. It's not bad, but it's just different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah, see, and you had such a good time watching it.
If you had not told me that this was different from the manga, I would have been like, this feels like a perfect adaptation in every way, which apparently it's not. But it still feels just like everything hit so, from my anime-only perspective, everything felt so perfect and so just like well thought out in this episode. But so we start out, they're at Kazuma's best dad's house. He's like the new Shigure, essentially. Now that Shigure is kind of the worst.
Yeah, just like the meeting place house.
Yeah. And so we're with Tohru and Rin, and Haru's stoked that Rin has a friend now.
Yes, he's so excited. And then their reactions to Kazuma calling Tohru Rin's fence are just, it's fantastic.
Yeah, Toru's like, wait, I'm your friend?
And Rin is so blushy, and Haru's like, I know you sound upset, but that blush is telling me otherwise.
Oh, it's so good. It's so wholesome. I like the moment of, quite literally, the moment of levity in this episode.
Yes.
At the very beginning. Because right after this, they kind of get back into the plot.
Oh yeah, and it starts hitting heavy because this season has been steamrolling you.
Oh my gosh. Just like, let me breathe. Like, bring back the student council. Let me have a moment.
Yeah, I mean, we briefly rewatched some season 1 scenes for a couple of these moments just to like refresh our memory.
It's
and,
like, what's the show?
What show was this?
Like, who are these characters? They seem much less traumatized.
Yeah.
Well, actually, on rewatch, it's like, oh no, they're still going through it. It's just less noticeable.
You're like, now that I know the warning signs, I can kind of see it.
No, yeah, and like the dots, they definitely connect.
Yeah.
But it's revealed that Rin is staying at Kazuma's, and she doesn't want to know about her time being locked up because, thank God, Akito, well, not thank Akito. We don't thank Akito for this situation. No, we blame Akito for this situation. But thank goodness Rin has, like, the foresight to be like, Tohru seems like she's got some stuff going on. Maybe we shouldn't tell her about this. Like, at least someone does. You know? like
Tohru, not okay. Maybe I shouldn't give her more emotional baggage.
Yeah. Like, big props to Rin in this moment. It's something so small. Yes. Something so important.
Yes. And it's also notable that Rin is staying with Kazuma because she also is scared of having anything to do with Akito. Yeah.
Which, fair
Understandable.
enough. I do. Very good.
Yeah, I get that.
We then go to Haru telling Yuki and Kazuma that Rin was actually in the cat's cage this whole time.
Yeah, and that, you can just tell in Kazuma's eyes that hits kind of hard.
Yeah. And I also think it's really telling as to who Haru explicitly trusts this world. You don't tell this kind of information to someone lightly. And so the fact that it's Yuki and Kazuma, and that's it, that he feels okay with telling this information to, I think is super awesome. And at least he doesn't have to bear this burden alone. Because I think people get into trouble when they bear this burden alone in this series. But when they start trusting people and opening up, that lightens your own load just a little bit so that it's manageable. So it's not just him and Rin in this corner duking it out alone. Now he has Yuki. Now he has Kazuma. Like, they're building this sphere of protection and healthy relationships, which is so important.
Very much needed.
Very much needed.
Yeah. And after the opening, we cut to Kyo and Tohru, and they're chatting about Isuzu. And Kyo says that Isuzu staying there is a good idea because now Kazuma is less likely to get lonely. Which, you know, he's just thinking, oh, when I'm not there for practice, like, he's not really thinking much about it. But Tohru, on the other hand, is like, yeah, for when you get locked up.
Yeah.
And you, like, her face, you can just see
all of the emotions going through it.
Yeah.
But then she, like, perks up and she's like, don't worry, Kyo. Kazuma lives for you. You'll always be #1, numero uno, best kitty for life.
Oh my gosh.
In Kazuma's eyes. And I thought that this was really interesting because it feels very much like a pep talk. Like, don't worry. Like, he still loves you so much. Like, even though Isuzu is there. But it also is kind of telling is because he seems like, yeah, okay, like, whatever. But it's because that's what she wants from a parent.
Oh.
You know?
Okay.
She wants that unconditional to be #1 in her parents' eyes. Like, we see this so much in this episode in particular. Her wanting to have her mom's attention. Her not wanting her dad to take her away. We'll get into that more later. But this is what she wants from a parent. And she's kind of thinking that's how to cheer Kyo up, because that might be what he wants too.
True. Okay. Ooh, I like that. Ooh, I never would have thought of it that way. But speaking of Kyoko, her anniversary of her passing is coming up, and Yuki mentions that and says that he wants to go, but Kyo very quickly says that he can't go. Do you have any theories about why? I mean, I guess at the ending it kind of gives it away, but why he wouldn't want to go?
Yeah, but I'm kind of confused though. Like, the ending kind of gives it away, but he went the year before.
I know, but, like, he didn't want to go. Do you remember that?
Yeah, but he did.
He did.
And while it definitely brought some stuff up for him, it wasn't as visceral as the end of this episode. At least what we, like, saw in the anime. Because as we've kind of gotten to see his relationship in these flashbacks, like, I think it's really interesting as the series has progressed, how it started with, like, I think it started with a disembodied voice. Then we saw a disembodied voice with some sketches of Kyoko's death, but still very abstract. And this is the first time later in the episode that we see it full in color.
Yeah, true.
You know? And fully realized. And so maybe it's just because things have finally sunk in for him about the reality of the situation. And something's just telling him to stay away. I don't think he went anywhere else, because we see him go a little bit later.
Yeah, he does end up going.
So I think it's mainly because maybe he does know more than he's letting on. Maybe. About the circumstances surrounding Kyoko's death. And he's reached a point in his relationship with Tohru that he wasn't at last time, where he wouldn't be able to keep it from her. And he doesn't want all of that information to come out, if it did, in front of Hanajima, Yuki, and Uotani.
Yeah, okay. So he needed to just go by himself. Okay, well, after that, then we cut to Shigure and Isuzu. And Shigure's just like, he's just dropping a lot of bombs. It's just a lot. And he's saying to Isuzu that she acted recklessly and now she's paid the price, and that Ren lied to her, and Ren actually has no idea how to break the curse. And
which, like, oof, that Ren situation did not work out well.
No, because Ren was using Rin as a pawn in her feud with Akito.
Yes. And you know what's crazy about this show? And I've been noticing this more and more, especially this season.
Yes.
How characters with similar names, very much in the context of the story, act as foils to one another. So there's Rin and Ren.
Okay.
There's Kyo and Kyoko, who kind of share in that relationship with Tohru, and how we see in this that she's feeling very conflicted about that. And Akito and Akira, who I don't know that much about Akira yet, but I'm feeling like there's kind of a duality between those two, and there's very much an ebb and flow in their relationship, and it severely affected Akito to be very different from Akira. If Akira's personality is as warm and caring as I'm thinking. So, you know, like, there's definitely foils.
Yeah, okay. So, like, with Kyo and Kyoko, they're not necessarily, like, acting against one another, but more so Tohru is having the trouble of figuring out which one is more important to her now at this point, or, like, which one's more precious.
Yeah.
Like, that kind of, okay.
Yeah. So, that's the case with Kyo and Kyoko. Like, they're kind of conflicting internally within Tohru, whereas Rin and Ren are conflicting, like, externally, just naturally in the world, but they have a very striking physical similarity as well. Rin and Ren look very similar to each other, and they act as this foil in the story. Kyo and Kyoko look very similar to each other, and they act as this foil in the story. Akira and Akito, while they don't look too similar, they are inherently family.
Yes. Like, they're actually blood related out of all of these people.
And I assume that we're going to learn a lot more about that dynamic in the future, and I hope that it supports this idea.
I hope this supports my theory.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. I thought that was interesting.
You know what? This is a good time for me to bring up this question, which, you know, I wasn't originally going to ask, but
Oh no.
Because you've answered it before, but I just want to see if your answer has changed.
Oh god. Okay.
Speaking of people who are against one another and fighting, do you think that Kyo killed Kyoko?
No. I don't. I actively don't think that Kyo killed Kyoko. I think that they definitely want us to think that, because, you know, at the end of the episode, we see his foot in the blood, and that I won't forgive you, like, Kyoko sounding really angry with him. I don't think he killed her.
Okay.
I think he was there. Maybe they got into a kerscuffle, but, like, a verbal kerscuffle, but I don't think he actively killed her. Because, oh my gosh, what would that do to his relationship with Tohru? You know? Like,
that wouldn't be a good place to take it. That'd be pretty sad.
Like, I'm not gonna go meta on the story, but people love Kyoru so much. And it seems pretty universal that people love Kyoru in the manga reader community. And if he killed Kyoko, I'm not sure that it would be so universal. Maybe that's metagaming this, but like...
I mean, use what you have. I'll take it.
I'll use that context.
I mean, then again, the manga readers do love the episodes where we cry the most, but that's its own thing.
That's true, but like... Murderer.
Okay. I'll accept it. Even if it's meta, I'll accept it. Okay. Back to the episode. Shigure goes on to continue talking about the curse, and he says that it's going to break on its own, and that they're the generation that's invited to the final banquet. And this has been his theory ever since he realized that every single member of the Zodiac is together again. This has never happened before.
Who called that?
A certain John during the beach arc?
Oh, I was like, oh, what if they're not always alive? And that is the case. So, I'm not going to pat myself on the back, but pat.
Hey, it's not true yet. It's Shigure's theory too, so you're on the same boat as Shigure. You're both theorizing.
Well, true. That's true. But it is true that they haven't all been alive together at the same time.
Well, yeah.
So, I'm gonna take the W that at least I'm on the same page as a character in the show. Who was written by the author.
Yes.
And he's a pretty smart dude. He's kind of the worst, but kind of smart. And a wild Tohru appears.
Oh, yes. Yes. And, not the best conversation for her to jump in on.
No. I mean, so she says, like, how long is it gonna be until it breaks? And it has to be broken by next spring, or Kyo will,
Yeah.
go to kitty prison.
Oh, wow, you made that sound a lot nicer than what it is.
Going to the kennel.
Oh, wow. Nope.
Laugh through the pain.
Laugh through the pain. Laugh through the tears. Nope. But then Shigure drops that Kuruno's curse is broken, which Rena shook. But Toru's like, that's old news. I learned that like 6 episodes ago.
Shooky like a straight up cookie.
Shooky like a straight up cookie? That's Reen.
Yep, that's Reen. And Toru's like, dog. Literally, dog. Like, next piece of information here. We're on a time crunch.
She's like, I've been looking at these days, been looking at my calendar. We gotta get moving.
And then Shigure is just actively the worst.
I mean, is he? Okay. So he says that every member of the Zodiac knows what's going to happen to Kyo and that he's not going to get any help from any of the Zodiac members because he's serving his purpose as the cat. So the Zodiac members view themselves as monsters, and it's a relief to know that there's someone more monstrous than them and another creature for them to exclude.
Yeah.
Which upsets Tohru.
She gives him a little push.
Yeah. But, the upsetting thing here is that he's truly not even trying to be mean.
No. And it's not just him, to be fair.
Yeah, it's everyone. This is just how they live. This is their normal.
Yeah, because it's been so sewn into their existence that the cat is bad. At least we're not him. That no one is born prejudiced. I mean, maybe the spirits are.
Maybe they have some baggage.
Maybe they have some baggage that goes from generation to generation. But in terms of people, no one is born prejudiced.
Mm-hmm.
That's taught. And so, if all of their life they've been taught cat bad, cat evil, we know cat is worse than us, so at least we're not him. So keep him over there because we're always excluded. So let's show him at least we're not bottom of the barrel.
Mm-hmm.
And so if that's all they've heard their entire lives, not that I say you can't blame them because it's still not okay, but at least it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it's this is the one part of the story where it's hard to compare it to real life scenarios because nothing in real life compares to this. Mm-hmm. You can't compare this magical zodiac situation to anything that we go through because you just should be nice to everyone pretty much.
Yeah. That said, prejudice does exist very viscerally in the real world.
Yes.
And that is something that a lot of people go through.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, there isn't a spiritual component where there's an animal talking in your ear that says, we no likey the cat.
Yeah.
Usually in real life, if you're that prejudiced, you're just the worst.
Yeah, and you just either need to work through it through counseling or some type of learning by reading books and getting over how you're being the worst.
Yeah.
Or you just continue to be the worst and everyone knows that you're the worst and you're mean.
Yeah. Because prejudice and putting someone down just because they're different is never in any way okay.
Yep.
But seeing it in this context, it's hard to blame Shigure because of this spirit. And this spiritual connection to this family.
Yeah, this other being that's in him that he can't control the emotions of, but it drives his own thoughts and feelings. And
so it's actually really impressive how some of the Zodiac members have started coming around to Kyo.
Yeah, like Kisa last episode.
Yes. even like hero to an extent. And so, I don't know, I think that's really cool.
Definitely. And so then Tohru, she's starting to get really overwhelmed with what Shigure is saying, and once he mentions love, she's out of there. She runs away. And that's because Tohru realizes that Kyo is becoming more precious to her. She made a promise to always put her mom first in her heart. She specifically says always together, just like she did during the beach arc with the photo of her mom. And she's getting really upset because she can feel her mother disappearing from her heart. It's like she's leaving again. Like, first she died, and now she's changing who's the most precious person in her heart.
And it's just, this is such a trademark sign of someone who hasn't genuinely worked through their grief to any meaningful extent. Like, up to this point, how long has it been? 2 years at this point?
Yeah, on the dot.
2 years on the dot. That she has shoved down her feelings, grief and dismay, and just absolute devastation of losing her mother. After 2 years of shoving it down, it's starting to come up to the surface, and there's nothing that's gonna stop them. Like, these feelings are going to come out one way or the other. And we're seeing those cracks more and more prevalent as time goes on.
Even in this episode.
Yes, even from the beginning of this episode to the end, those cracks, like, it's like when you hit ice and it splinters a little bit, but then it just erupts.
Yeah, ooh, I like that comparison. But one thing that I really want to note, and I loved this scene because it's something that you could skip over so easily. In the flashback scene, her grandpa first calls Tohru Tohru, and then he changes it to Kyoko when she doesn't reply. And it's so easy to miss.
And the fact that they acknowledged something that has disturbed me so profoundly about her grandfather, and that there's such a well thought out reasoning. I'm still not saying that I fully agree with it, but there is such a well thought out reasoning for him to do this that, while it's disturbed me for such a long time, I'm not mad about it anymore. Because he is literally doing what he thinks is the best for her. Just to keep her from absolutely crumbling with the loss of her mother. Maybe getting her into counseling would have been a step further in the right direction.
Yeah.
But it's still good. It's still good.
But then we see that Kyo is actually there. He showed up and he catches her crying, and he gives her just such wonderful reassurance. And he says, just don't do anything. Give yourself time. Wait until you have to do something. It's okay, you can cry. And this so beautifully mirrors season 1, episode 5, perfectly named, I've been fooling myself when this episode is named It Was So Foolish. Just like, wonderful. I love this. Even with naming the episodes, they did such a great job. But, yes.
And both are very inherently tied to Tohru and her family.
Exactly. But in that episode, Kyo tells her that it's okay to complain, be selfish, or get discouraged. Being selfish really isn't that bad. It's good to be selfish sometimes. You can't constantly be selfless. That would hurt you. Like the idiot traveler or whatever that was.
Yeah. And I think that this is so great to look back at that episode, him saying that it's okay to be selfish sometimes, because in this episode in particular, she constantly talks about how selfish she is, how awful she is for being selfish, how it's constantly in this very derogatory and negative framework. And while, yes, like last episode, we talked a lot about selfish love versus selfish love. That, and how I kind of imagine that being selfless is how you can break the curse, right? That said, being selfless and having selfless love for someone else doesn't mean you can't care about yourself.
Exactly, yes.
You know? Like, they're not mutually exclusive. You're not either selfless or selfish. Like, it's okay to have your own desires, have your own needs, have your own wants. And it's up to your partner or whomever you're with or the people around you to kind of rise to the occasion to make sure that you're okay too.
Mm-hmm.
So you're allowed to be selfish sometimes, like Kyo's saying, and Tohru just isn't seeing that. She, in her entire life, just to get kind of the affection she wanted from her mother, she's always thought, I need to be not myself. I need to be strong for my mom. I need to cook for my mom. I need to act like my dad for my mom.
Mm-hmm.
She has been so selfless just to try and keep her mom around her entire life that this message that Kyo's been trying to tell her, like, it's okay to cry, it's okay to complain, it's okay to be selfish, since the first season.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm hoping it starts getting through.
Yeah. And in the next scene, we see that Kyo shows up to Kyoko's grave on his own, and he runs into Tohru's grandfather. And this is when we get symbolism time with Ali, my friends.
Ooh, meow, 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 meow.
So we have a lot of flowers going on, and thank God I could recognize all of these way faster than the primroses from the last episode.
No, yeah, you just rattled them off this time.
Oh yeah, I felt kind of cool when that happened. So, this grave has lilies, irises, hyacinths, and chrysanthemums.
Mm-hmm.
So, white lilies, they are notable for being a symbol of purity and dignity. Irises are symbolic for good news, glad tidings, loyalty, having a gentle heart, and elegance. Chrysanthemums are the big one here, okay?
Okay.
So
okay.
Chrysanthemums are a very important flower in Japan because it is the symbol of the Japanese emperor.
Mm-hmm.
It means longevity, rejuvenation, and nobility. White chrysanthemums are typically used for graves. But as we know from the first time they went to go visit Kyoko's grave, the girls, they really aren't into celebrating Kyoko's death the normal way. They want to break the rules and eat lunch outside of Kyoko's grave and just cause a ruckus because that's what she would have wanted anyway. So they aren't going to leave white chrysanthemums at Kyoko's grave. They left yellow and orange, breaking tradition, which I love.
Killing it.
And then the last one that they left, it really, I cried when I read this. It's purple hyacinth, and it means, I am sorry, sorrow, please forgive me. And notably, it's a good flower to give someone who not only deserves your respect, but your gratitude too. And I'm kind of tearing up while saying that again. But oh my gosh. That's the one that really hurts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because she, the story makes it absolutely irrefutable that she has had a sincere impact on almost everyone she has come in contact with in a positive way.
Yeah.
I love how much thought is put into every flower and every moment of this show.
Yeah.
Even down to the coloring of the flowers.
Yeah, because they really pay attention to this, and flower symbolism, it's not just this anime. Check it out with other anime too. You'll start to realize that flowers have a pretty deep meaning. And it's different based on culture, so I just pull from the Japanese meanings, but everywhere, look up what it means in your culture. It's all pretty special.
Yeah. So then we go more in depth with Kyo and Tohru's grandfather's conversation. And they talk about her grandfather called her Kyoko, which we've already kind of gone into. But then they go into why Tohru speaks the way that she does. And I think you had something to say about this.
Oh yeah, we chatted about it in the Discord. So if you're not in our Discord, you better join because that's where we have all the Juicy Fruits Basket conversations.
Oh, and just a lot of fun conversations in general. A lot of zesty people in the best way possible. So check that out. Shameless plug. Yes.
But okay, so basically she speaks the way that she does because of Katsuya. So after his funeral, his relatives were all saying nasty things, like Tohru wasn't even related to Katsuya, they don't look the same, and...
Which, I'm sorry, real quick segue.
Yes.
We still don't know what he looks like.
True.
And it's infuriating to me for the sheer fact, I've said this since season 2, like when we started this podcast. I'm sorry, they're gonna reveal his face, and I'll be like, oh my god, he looks like everyone else.
Yes.
Like, I'm putting money on it.
Oh, geez.
That is not going to be. It'll be like, oh my gosh, anime man face.
Oh my gosh.
Like, I'm sorry. I'm putting money on it right now. It will still be impactful because they've really been keeping it from us for 3 seasons. Just let me know what the dude freaking looks like, because I feel like I'm really excited. The show's so amazing, but I feel like I'm gonna be underwhelmed by his face.
No comment. Okay, so I'm not agreeing with you.
He's just like Fabio.
Stop! No! Okay. So. If you speak Japanese, then you would have been wondering from the start why Tohru was constantly speaking in, might butcher the pronunciation of this, we typically do with Japanese names,
Heck
whatever. In Kaigo? Anyways, that's a form of Japanese speech that's normally only used in very formal settings. So all of the Japanese viewers this entire time would have been like, why is she talking like that? Like, that's so silly. Because for us, it just sounds like a little bit more polite. And like, it's nice to be polite. But in Japanese, it's like really striking that she's speaking super formally. It's like, why does she talk like that? Like, that's so silly. You don't have to talk like that right now. Like, these are your friends, Tohru. You can talk normally. But she just doesn't do that. And so now we finally get the explanation why. It's because that's how Katsuya spoke.
I think that when her grandfather called back to that funeral of her mother, and he said that children absolutely understand contempt when they hear it.
Yeah.
That's so irrefutably true. Like, people act like kids are so dumb that just because they might not understand the words you're saying, they 1000% understand the meaning. Like, kids pick up on the smallest of details, even when they're newborns. Like, your tone of voice matters, your inflection matters, the context of the situation matters, and they're going to understand a lot more than you think. Even if you think they're not listening, they're still soaking every word in like a sponge. And so I think it's awesome that they kind of compare this with how the exact same thing happened with Kyo during his mother's funeral. Because both of them soaked all of that hatred in, and just, we can see now that they never really let it go.
No.
Like that influenced them to a profound degree at a very vulnerable time in their lives where Tohru didn't really understand, I don't think, the totality of her father's death, you know?
Yeah, they both really used it as a catalyst for how they were going to act in the future. Whether it's Kyo wanting to fight with Yuki, saying, I'll kill Yuki, then kill myself, like blaming all of this onto Yuki. And then also Tohru entirely changing the way that she acts and her personality. They really use this as the catalyst for their goals and how they will respond and act with others. And that just shows you how intensely they took these moments and how much they understood it as children.
And it makes me wonder, like, how much...
Okay, we cut to Kagura, and she's hiding from Tohru, and she says, I'll feel like she's the winner and I'm the loser. And knowing, I think that is the worst part of all, and I just love that she's so self-aware, and she even realizes that Tohru and Kyo both like each other, and she wants them to get together just so she can move on finally.
So there's a scene in this episode that I have a funny feeling makes a lot of people mad.
It might be the reason why a lot of people hate Kagura.
I love Kagura.
Me too.
I love Kagura. The scene where she slaps Tohru, too far. Very bad move.
Bad move.
Don't approve of that at all. That's not the way to handle someone who's literally in several emotional crises all at once.
Yeah.
That's actually the worst way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
That said, I love Kagura as a character more and more every time she's on screen because she is the only self-aware character in this entire show.
Arguably, yeah. She's one of them.
I mean, not the, obviously, like, that's a little bit of hyperbole, but she's one of the most self-aware characters in this whole show.
Yeah.
Because everything, ever since she kind of confessed to Kyo, she either has a zinger, where she's very reflective on how she feels, why she feels it, but she's like, I know I shouldn't feel like this, but I don't care, I do anyways. And it's like, just everyone say that. Like, literally, everyone just acknowledge it. You can still feel the feelings, but no, they might be irrational sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the first step to being able to work through it.
Yeah.
You know? And so she is fantastic.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
She's fantastic.
Agree. I was so scared when we started watching this that you would hate Kagura, and I'm happy that we are where we are, because I really tried not to influence you, but like, she's just so good.
She's so good. She's so well written. We say this about every character in this show. Sans Ritsu. Ritsu didn't appear in this episode.
Our Ritsu counter is struggling.
Yeah.
We had like 2 really good ones and then it just fell off.
Yeah. Sorry.
Anyways.
Sorry, Ritsu. But so Kazuma is worried because he wants Tohru to love Kyo for him and for the right reasons, not because she's pitying him or she's just a bleeding heart who wants to help the poor little cat. And he brings up the previous wife of the cat.
Yeah, and she was just like, poor thing. I couldn't help but feel sorry for him, like the previous cat, Kazuma's grandfather.
Which, oof. I think she specifically used the word pity.
Yeah.
And pity is the worst word.
Yeah.
Pity is the worst thing you can do to anyone, in my opinion.
Yeah. No.
Because you're not doing anything constructive if you pity someone. Mm-hmm. You're just looking down on them.
And it's so humiliating.
Yeah. Who wants to be pitied? Literally no one. Mm-hmm. Now, if you want to help someone and help to lift them up, then that's different.
Yeah.
Oh,
But just looking down on them like that?
I don't even know the previous cat, and I'm mad for him. Like, he deserves better than that. Ugh.
Nope.
Gross.
Not a fan.
But spit on her.
Even Isuzu brings it up. Like, while Kazuma and Kagura are having this conversation, Isuzu's confused how Tohru could like Kyo, and she's like, do you pity him? And Tohru goes on to say, this feeling is cruel and greedy, all-consuming. Could it really be pity? Because all this time, Tohru has been hiding from her true feelings and putting up this front that she wants to save all of the Zodiac members, but really, she's, in her own words, being selfish. She just wants to save Kyo because she wants him.
Yeah, and it's, again, we've already talked about this, but it's okay to want something.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay to need support and need help. Guess who is her primary source of support and help? Kyo. That's not a bad thing to desire companionship. And someone who to help keep you up when you can't stand on your own 2 feet. You know?
Yeah.
But she feels as though this is burdensome and cruel and greedy because it's focused on her. Like, she finally needs someone. She doesn't have any more to give. She's tapped out. And so this is when Kagura comes in, the slap, not the move, Kagura. If someone you know is having issues and is really emotional and even somewhat irrational maybe, not the move to slap them. Don't do that. That said, Kagura has a point.
Yeah, she should be telling Kyo this.
Also, that said, it's also good that she's telling someone.
Yeah, she's finally telling someone, a friend.
Yeah, so it's good that she's telling Rin this, a friend. And that's fantastic. That's the best first step. So I disagree with Kagura on that front. She should be telling Rin. but I agree that she should also be telling Kyo.
Yes.
So, Kagura, a little bit of a hit and miss there.
Love everything else you're doing, girl.
Love everything else. Keep being introspective.
Okay, but then we cut back to Grandpa, and this scene hurts because baby Tohru in this little flashback reveals that Kyoko was feeling sick and she wouldn't talk after Katsuya's death. And then Kyoko left home for a long while. We learned when we have Kyo's flashback with her that she left for work, apparently. But Tohru remembers learning how to talk like Katsuya as this terrible experience. But then Kyo in his flashback remembers Kyoko talking about it so fondly. Like it was this wonderful thing that happened. And they both have such a different feeling about this moment.
Mm-hmm.
That just hits hard.
Yeah. And I love how he uses that context to try and make her feel better in this scene.
Yes.
This scene is really powerful for a number of reasons. And you mentioned this, I can't remember if it was last episode or a couple episodes ago, but oh wow, look at that. It's sunset again.
Oh yeah. Always sunset scenes with them.
Always sunset scenes with them.
Time is coming closely to the end. Even
Yes.
when she's crying in the street and he finds her, it's sunset then too. Always sunset.
Always sunset, because like you said, time's running out.
Yeah, and Tohru is constantly being reminded, even in the scenes with the sunsets, that pretty soon she's not going to be with Kyo anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And so not only is her mom fading away, but she's also at risk of losing her only other support, who she now puts above her mother.
Yeah.
So now that she's finally found someone to start filling that void, he's also about to leave her. Unless she does something.
Yeah. And before we get into my favorite scene, we have to note that Kyo once saw Tohru when she was younger. And he looks at her then, and then he looks at Tohru now, and he wonders, even now, is she still that lonely girl? Which, just the fact that he noted when she was younger that she looked lonely, he has, like, this Tohru sixth sense. Like, he knows what's going on with her. But now it's cheat scene time. We've been waiting for it, and we've been waiting for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
It's here.
It's here.
I mean, I think you've been waiting for it more than me, because now I have context.
Yeah.
But it looked cute in the trailer.
It did. This is why we all freaked out when we saw it in the trailer.
It was more cute in the trailer. It's more painful now.
Yeah. That's why we were like, is this a spoiler? But then we were like, you kind of need context to know why this is so intense.
Although I was right. It was on the day of the funeral.
Yeah, you did know that it had something to do with death. But
yeah. So, I'm glad it's Kyoko's and not another character's.
Yeah.
Is that awful to say?
I mean, no one else died.
Yeah,
just the one we already knew.
Yeah, so that's good.
He says apprehensively.
So Kyo starts off asking if she resembled her dad.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that even though he knows the answer, he actively knows the answer. He wants to give her the opportunity to share this information with him.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't just go in knowing. He wants to give her the opportunity to say her piece, open up, and say something that she's probably never told anyone.
Also, like, low-key don't want to compare Kyo to you, who, like, has a master's degree, but, like, isn't that what counselors do? It's like a counselor trick. Kyo knows what's up.
That is a counselor trick.
He may not have his master's degree, but he's pretty savvy in getting Tohru to talk.
It's not a trick.
Okay, trick, okay. I'm thinking, like, 5-minute crafts, tips, and tricks here. Like, I'm not thinking of, like, you studied this, I guess.
It's not a trick. We're not doing magic here. But yeah, like, it's so much better for, even if you have an inkling of the situation, or you have a good idea, it's better for the individual to say how they feel and put it into their own words, because if they verbalize it, it would be a lot more impactful than if he were to bring it up and tell her how she felt, or bring it up in an inorganic way. So I ran into your grandpa and he told me that you started talking like your dad when your mom died. Like, what's up with that?
Yeah.
Then that would probably lead her to be like, what?
And get defensive or like confused.
Yeah, because he knows too much. And so, like, that would immediately put her more withdrawn, on the back foot. But if she opens up herself from a natural, organic question that comes from natural curiosity, then that puts them on a much more even playing field, and she's way more open to sharing her thoughts and feelings, which is so... Kyo, you really pulling out the MVP status moves here. Like, yes. you really killing the game here.
Yeah, and Tohru goes through a roller coaster of emotions. At first, she starts to break down, but then she perks back up and she says, people say that my way of speaking is a lot like his. And she pretends to be super happy about this. But then literally, next sentence, she goes, actually, that's a lie. I'm nothing like him. I started imitating him.
And if you look at her in that scene, when she's pretending to be happy and doing her Tohru thing, trying to be season 1 Tohru, where she's really good at putting on that act, like, you can even tell in her eyes that, like, her eyes aren't right. Her eyes are not happy in this. Like, the facade, it's not working anymore, even at a superficial level.
Yeah. And she just goes on to just totally spill a lot of her feelings here. And she admits that in her head, she made her dad to be the bad guy. Because back then she thought that Katsuya might take Kyoko away with him. So Tohru had to find some way to make Kyoko notice her so that she wouldn't leave and go be with Katsuya.
And this just leads into a lot of her inner thoughts just spilling out.
Yeah, and she admits a lot of, like, deep things about herself and her own mindset.
Like, she would do anything to feel safe and keep the person she loves from being taken away from her, and that she would break any promise for her own sake, which, if you've experienced the kind of loss that she has, wouldn't you be defensive over the people you care about? Like, you know, it's not, like, it's very understandable.
Yeah.
And she's taken this to a point that is a little all-consuming. But she just needs that stability in her life that she had for, like, 7 minutes when she was with the Somas.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And while she's spilling all of her emotions, we also see the scene of Tohru practicing in the mirror. And it hurts just really bad. It just hits in a way that, like, I mean, at this point I was bawling, so.
I don't cry.
Oh my gosh, you had an iron grip on my shoulder.
I don't cry, like, typically at Fruits Basket, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I'll, like, say, like, oh my gosh, I was sobbing. But, like, typically I don't actually, like, shed tears.
You know? Tear up a little bit.
Yeah, like I, like, water up.
Like that Momiji episode gotcha.
Yeah, like, I well up a little bit, but, like, I don't, like, bawl. I was, like, tears out of both eyes.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I was, like, runny nose. Like, I was a mess from, like, start to finish at this episode, which is, like, crazy. It really profoundly affected me, this one. And that scene in particular, because we watched it in English, and it's a little bit different, I'm sure, in the Japanese because of the different language. Like, how she uses language differently is very telling. But even in the English, how it sounded like a child pretending to be an adult.
Yeah, well, she's just staring up at his suit jacket.
Yeah, and then looking in the mirror.
Yeah.
Saying, welcome home. How was your day today?
Oh, stop. I'm gonna cry again. Okay.
It hurt me in a way I didn't know I could be hurt.
Yeah. Because, like, we have a young niece and nephew, and the idea of that happening to, like, I can't. I can't do that in my brain. No.
And then, Kyo reassures her.
Yes.
And...
The hug.
The hug.
He says, whatever you need, you won't disappoint me.
Oh, which she's probably never heard that in her whole entire life.
Yeah.
Like, let's talk about unconditional love right now. Because that's it.
Mm-hmm.
That is literally the definition. Kyo is such a good boy.
It's so sweet. It's so sweet that you won't disappoint me. Oh, okay. But then he transforms when they hug, which sweetest scene. Oh my gosh, I can't. But he transforms, and this
not surprising.
I mean, kind of surprising for manga readers because we weren't sure if it was going to happen.
Oh.
Yes, because if you're reading the manga, Taki liked to include all of these different, just like page filler sketches, just when there needed to be like a page break or something like that, but there was nothing really to put there.
Yeah.
She would put a little sketch.
Yeah.
And just a little doodle. And for the page break sketch between this chapter and the next chapter, she had Kyo being transformed on the other side of the sheet with Tohru with a little tiny tear.
Mm.
And yeah, so because it was a page filler sketch, we didn't know if it was canon. We didn't know if that was actually going to happen. And it's canon, which is kind of good because then, like, if cloth is the only thing that makes a difference, like, they're wearing clothes, so, like...
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, quick aside, I've noticed that a lot of people are confused about when people transform, and we've been getting a lot of comments about that. So real quick, it's when torsos touch. So, like, if his little sister grabs his finger, he's not going to transform because their torsos didn't touch. If he held his little sister, then he would transform.
Yeah, because, like, Toru's had her hands held. If we even look back at Season 1, Episode 5, which we talked about earlier, both Kyo and Yuki held her hands.
Yes, yes.
So, like, they can hold hands.
Yes.
They can... That makes sense that the torso's touching is, like, the trigger for it.
Yes.
But... Yeah, I never thought about it in that way.
Yes.
But yeah, the hand holding thing doesn't make sense, the finger holding.
So, just wanted to clear that up because I've noticed that a lot of anime onlys are commenting, but they hugged, why didn't they blah blah? So, yeah, that's that.
Makes sense. On board. And then we cut back to Kagura, which, again, she kills it with the zingers. she always comes ready for a spicy quote. And she goes... I won't apologize. Tohru and I worked it out with our fists.
And Rin hits back and she goes, you're the only one who hit. You're so annoying when you get like this.
It's so good. It's so good. I don't know. I really enjoy Kagura. Because she's, again, we say this all the time. She's like the most realistic.
Yeah.
Relatable. Yeah, and essentially those two just feel like sisters. And I know they live together, so that makes so much sense. And I just love seeing... This was a rare interaction.
Rare. But this is when it gets real. This is when the spice really hits. So Tohru finds a photo of her dad.
Without a face.
Okay. But, okay, so she has that photo of her mom with the little peace sign, and she keeps the photo of her dad behind it. So she pulls it out from behind, and while Kyo's looking at the photo, Tohru remembers what Kagura says, and then she sees her mom. And you notice something, and I didn't notice this. I don't know how, but...
So, okay, this blew my brain apart,
yes.
Right? So, when she looked back down at the photo, and it was just blue sky and clouds in the picture that Kyoko was supposed to be in, this was some paranormal activities type crap.
Oh my gosh.
Because she looked back up, and the ghost of Kyoko was just hovering behind Kyo. And I think it makes sense from, like, where her headspace is at, you know? The shadow of Kyoko is looming over her affection for Kyo. But the fact that she literally escaped from the picture to do that, Tohru is not.
No.
She is not okay.
And then Kyo's not okay very quickly because Kyo notices that blue hat and he remembers Kyoko's body. Very gruesome. And he says, I remember I locked it away. But then he starts to panic. So I have a question for you.
Yes.
Why does the hat trigger Kyo?
Literally not a clue.
Okay.
I want to give you an answer that, like, makes sense. But I literally don't know.
And I asked you this, like, right after we watched the episode hours ago. And you're like, need to think on it, but you still haven't come up with anything hours later.
Hours later, I don't know
Okay.
why it would be so triggering for him.
I mean, that's good.
Like, unless there's some connection between Yuki and Kyoko with the hat. But, like, I don't know.
Secrets.
So, Tohru drops the photo. Kyoko's face cracks.
Yeah, the glass.
Which I think, again, very thematically relevant to how Kyoko is starting to fade into the background. Because she is so concerned about Kyo that her mother's picture isn't even a thing in her mind anymore.
Yeah.
Whereas she used to have panic attacks and so I think it's still like that development of Kyo is truly the most important thing to her. And when he gets so viscerally upset by seeing that hat and hearing Kyoko's voice screaming, I won't forgive you, which gave me severe goosebumps.
Yeah, it was gruesome. It was, like, that scared me. I even knew it was coming, and I was just seeing it in color is so different.
Yeah, it was very, very gruesome.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah.
Yeah, and I love that they keep changing the ending. Now the glass in the photo frame is broken in the ending.
Yeah.
Very nice.
That is
I like
very
that
nice.
touch. But the next episode is That's Right, It's Empty. Akito is saying it. Give me your theories.
So, Akito saying it, I mean, it's gotta be about the box. Someone grabbed the box and opened it, and there's nothing in there. That, I feel very strongly about this.
Okay, so before you thought it was ashes in there.
Yeah.
So does that mean that Akito took the ashes out? Someone took the ashes out? There were never ashes in there? There was something in there that wasn't ashes and that got taken out? Like, which track are we on?
I think that it may have always been empty. Like, maybe it was meant to house Akira's ashes, but Akito got rid of them or moved them to a different location, maybe? I don't know. There's too much information being hurled at me.
This episode was a lot for the anime onlys.
This episode was so incredibly much, as can be seen in the length of this podcast this week.
Oh my gosh, it's so long. Thank you for sticking around.
Yes.
I mean, we asked and people were like, I'd listen to you for so long. We'll see if that's true, but thank you for sticking around if you did.
If you did, you were a saint. But yeah, so I would say that there was never... What am I even saying?
I don't know. It's a good thing that you don't know.
Yeah.
It's just like how you didn't know that Akito is a woman. It's just a good thing that you don't know.
Yeah, but I want to know and be like, ha, I was right.
I mean, you'll learn next episode. You're gonna get the line. It will be revealed to you.
It's just like... she's sipping on a juice box. It was always empty.
No!
But, I don't know. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
I think we talked about it all and more.
I think you are right.
Mm-hmm.
But that'll do it for this week's episode of our Fruits Basket podcast. So if you like this video, you want to see more of this kind of content coming from this channel, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and why not even ring that notification bell so you never miss another upload. And if you haven't already, make sure to check out our Teespring page to check out our crow design, which is Persona 5 inspired, or our Hanakatoba shirt, which is much more Fruits Basket inspired. But as always, we hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, a fantastic rest of your week, and why not even a fantastic rest of your month. and we will see you in the next video. Later.
See ya!